doesn't have, realize that the rooms that we've been talking about, the basement, is really just this space here in the shape of a cross. You see that here, guys? Now this particular cross is very interesting because the Mayas used crosses. That was already a thing among them. But the Mayan cross is different. The Mayan cross has equal lengths on each side of the cross. So it's more like a T, okay, or like an X. Some people say like a inverted X. But you have equal sides, equal lengths on each side because the cross for the Mayas represented the 4 cardinal points. That's what they were going for. But whenever you found a cross like this one, guys, this cross represented the tree, the Yashche tree that we saw outside. A way to identify the Yashche trees in the jungle is that typically, I didn't point this out, I forgot to, but the branches, they typically go perpendicular, and the first ones, they go straight out. Okay, but the first branches, they go perpendicular to the trunk, and they go pretty straight out. Okay, so whenever you find a cross like this one here, guys, it's really associated to the tree that we saw outside. And so every section of the cross would represent one of the levels of existence. So usually a person's body would be buried in the tomb that's at the top of the cross because that means that this person hopefully went on to the heavens in the next life. If you went down to the Xibalba, that means that your existence was no use in this life. It's like they're throwing you to the garbage because you have to go back to the underworld to start all over again. The Mayans believe that the underworld was where their spirits were created. The trunk, of course, was earth, but the branches is the heavens, the afterlife. That's where you want to go to. But if you're not worthy to go to the afterlife, if you didn't have the education that was necessary and the resources in this life, so if you weren't wealthy, you didn't make it up to the afterlife. So a lot of times the lower class families, for example, they were tossed into the cenotes. You guys all know what a cenote is already, right? Mm-hmm. Some cenotes, the elevation in those cenotes could be sometimes up to 100 feet. If you guys go to the cenote over at Chichen Itza, for example, it's 96 feet tall, guys. Okay, from the surface all the way down to where you can reach the water, there's 96 feet. The people were being sacrificed into the cenote. People were being tossed in like virgins, newborn babies sometimes. Anyone was tossed into the cenote. That's my uncle over there. Yeah, so people were being tossed into the cenotes because the cenotes for the Mayas was the deepest place on earth, at least here in the Yucatan Peninsula. So if you wanted to please the gods of the underworld, or if you wanted to send someone as a punishment back to the underworld, where would you throw them to? Down to a cenote. So that's why a lot of times, you know, there's people that like, they call them archaeological scuba divers, that they go into cenotes just searching for artifacts. And they found skulls, they found skeletons, they found jewelry, all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty amazing. But anyway, guys, we have the tomb on the top of the cross, which means that that person was hopefully sent up to the afterlife up in the heavens. But that is what a tomb looks like. That's just the lid, though. The rest of it is buried underneath the ground, at least another 3 feet, and the bodies were usually folded in fetal positions. Okay? And these tombs were recycled. So each time there was a new dead guy, they would take out the older one and put in a new person.
What did they do with the old one?
They would keep it. These guys, have you guys heard of the stories or the traditions of the Day of the Dead, for example? It's coming up very soon, actually. So in the Day of the Dead, the original tradition, the Mayas would actually keep the skulls of the deceased relatives and place it on top of a shrine and worship them that way, or pray to them that way.
Oh.
So they would keep the skulls so that they can be able to channel or communicate with their ancestors over time.
Is that why they have like the painted skulls all the time? They would paint them and make.
The Spanish came over and they Christianized the whole tradition, and now, you know, they added on lots of color and lots of folklore to it, you know. But back in the day, you know, it was a little more hardcore. You know, you kept the skull of that person to really communicate with that person. So it was something else. Yeah, but these days they make skulls out of candy now, and you put them on your shrines too, just as. You know. All right.